Fun for everybody. All right. Young Turks. Cenk Uygur and Michael Schur with you. Historic weekend, obviously. 220 to 215. Healthcare reform passed in the House, gets kicked over to the Senate, where it's already being greeted with skepticism. Lindsey Graham says it's dead on arrival, as if he matters. He's a Republican senator from South Carolina and totally irrelevant to this process.
And friend of Joe Lieberman, by the way.
Right. That's the only way that he's relevant to this process. Joe Lieberman, more importantly, says that he will, as a matter of conscience, will not allow this bill, if it has a public option, if it's the healthcare version, the House version of healthcare reform, he will not allow it to go to a vote. And if he joins the Republicans in a filibuster, he could prevent that vote.
He will allow it to go to the floor. He'll be generous enough to allow it to go to the floor, but once it's on the floor, he won't allow it to go to a vote.
And he screamed on Face the Nation, "Am I not merciful?" And we thought, no, you're not.
No, you're not merciful. And he, by the way, is relevant.
He definitely is relevant.
He's relevant.
Yeah, unfortunately. So now, we had the healthcare bill passing, 220 to 215. That's a positive thing. But at the very end, they needed the Stupak amendment to bring on some conservative Democrats to get it to pass. Now, that's where we have some significant controversy. What the Stupak amendment does is it says you cannot offer to pay for abortions if people are buying the public option.
Well, if federal funds are used for it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if you're getting a subsidy, not only can you not use it if you're getting the public option, like it can't be part of the package, but you also cannot use the subsidy that the government is paying for to go private plan that provides abortions, okay, that provides money for abortions,
right.
Okay? So if you're getting that federal subsidy, you have to pay for the abortion out of your own pocket if you can, okay, but you cannot use that subsidy for it. Now, of course, a lot of pro-choice Democrats are very, very angry about this, but it did pass 240 to 194, which is significant, and it passed with a more comfortable margin than the overall bill did. So now the question is it out of bounds or is it not out of bounds as far as a compromise is concerned? And some people would say it's way out of bounds, and I can't believe that they gave away women's right to choose or the ability to actually get an abortion if you actually need one, a practical need in these cases, and made this decision. And other people say that it's necessary political compromise. Okay. Now, where do we fall? I'm going to let Michael go first.
Well, I fall in the camp of being, vehemently pro-choice. But I do find that the underlying legislation that was passed was more important than something that preceded it. I first of all understand the people of conscience on the other side who believe, as a matter of conscience, that that abortion should not happen, objecting to the use of federal funds in abortion. I think that there is a fine line as to how you make that work, and I heard it best described, though, this legislation, as some of these House members, some of these very pro-choice House members, holding their noses and voting for the health care legislation, because they know that when it comes back to the House, when it's in conference, that they're going to be able to do work on this legislation. But in order to pass the health care legislation, they needed everybody. And that's the problem with the Democratic Party, as we've discussed forever. It's a good problem to have, but it's the problem of diversity within your own caucus there, within those all those Democrats that we have in the House, 277, I think it is, that you cannot make them all happy all the time. And if this was an important part of it, if going back to their districts and saying, all right, I did not vote for federal dollars to be used for abortion, it doesn't seem to me to be that difficult an obstacle to get over.
All right, here's my thoughts on it. I am adamantly pro-choice. I would definitely have voted no on the Stupak amendment, and I can't stand that it's in there. Okay, to make it as strong and as clear as possible. Having said that, I understand that it's political compromise, and I'm willing to live with it. Now, why? Okay, some people will say, "Oh, you're giving away women's rights, and easy for you to live with." And you know what? Have at it, Hoss. You're perfectly free to say all that, and you're perfectly free to make this your stand. But here's why I say it, what I do. No one misled you here. There wasn't Joe Lieberman saying, hey, I'm going to be a Democrat and I'm going to fight for health insurance, and then he turns around and he says, no, I'm going to kill health insurance reform, right? There wasn't someone saying, hey, I'm looking out for your best interest, but in fact, they're looking out for their corporate benefactors' best interest. No, these were pro-life Democrats and pro-life Republicans. They were clear on the record, and they won. They won their elections. And now, should they be in the majority in a country that believes that's about 2/3 pro-choice? No. But that's why we have elections. So if you don't like the way they voted, and I don't like the way they voted, then kick their ass out. But until you do, they didn't lie to you. They said they were pro-life and they were going to fight for it, and they did. And we lost on that one. And sometimes you lose, and then you live to fight another day. But should we bring down all of healthcare reform because we lost on that one? No, we just didn't have the numbers on it. And there's no chicanery, and it's a matter of conscious, and it is. There's no corporate this or corporate that behind this. There's no, it is what it is. And this is like one of those old school disagreements. They're pro-life, we're pro-choice, and we just got to duke it out in political battle. There's nothing disingenuous here. We just happen to have lost on that one.
There was a bit of a quote-unquote corporation behind it because the United Council of Catholic Bishops has been vociferous and has been a strong lobby that while the bishops want health care because they think that's very important, they did not want health care if it included any kind of federal funding for abortions. I also, and I might get excoriated for this, I don't think that this does anything to the fundamental right in America for a woman to have an abortion. It's just delineating where those funds come from. And I think what it will do, and this is of course idealistic, and it's not fact-based at all, but I think that a lot of these, first of all, I don't think this legislation is going to stay in it. So I think they're going to work on it. It's going to be changed. There's going to be a delineation of what funds can be used, what subsidies can be used. But let's say it doesn't change at all. I think that it will then allow some of these, some of these family planning providers to be able to get together and figure ways out to make the system work so that women who don't have the financial means to have abortions, who need them, are able to. So an elective abortion is not covered with federal dollars. It was voted down in the House, or it was voted up in the House that they don't put federal dollars in there. But I don't think that's the end of abortion in America. I don't think it even is a beacon that might happen.
Let me add two other things here. One, to Michael's point on where is this going. Obviously some Democrats are livid about this, and they say, and they claim that they have 40 progressive Democrats who, if it still remains in the bill after it gets through the Senate, which they're hopeful it won't, but if it remains in the bill after the Senate, that they're going to vote no on the final bill. Now, if they do, that could in and of itself kill the whole thing, okay? So there are still many obstacles for this being in the final package, okay? So understand that. Now, how has it been received? Claire McCaskill, who's pro-choice, senator from Missouri, but who's a moderate, says almost what I say, which is, I don't like it, but I might be able to live with it. Okay, now that's caused some anger, but I think she's right. And I'll get to why she's right in a second. But the other part of where is this going is, what does the White House say about it? And they asked Gibbs today 4 times, and 4 times he ducked and dodged and would not answer the question. And he said, look, let's wait till the end of the process. If it's in the final bill, basically his answer was, then I'll have a comment on it. But for now, he just completely avoided it. And now some are angry at that. Now, but should they be? So let's come back to the Claire McCaskill issue. Look, why can I live with it, even though I don't like it at all? Because I don't think it's central to this question. The question right now is healthcare reform. And how are we going to do? Are we going to cover people? Is it going to be low cost? Can people afford it? Can the budget afford it? Et cetera. Okay. So can we do that? Now, I think that's the central question at hand. Now, if it turns out you lose something that is tangential, important, but tangential to that, at some point in the amendment, in the process, what you can do is you can come back with your own amendment later. You can refight that fight. Don't kill the whole thing, because now, and it is an important distinction here, because you might say, hey, Cenk, well, wait a minute now. You say if it doesn't have the public option, maybe we should kill the whole thing. But that is not tangential. That is the core of it. If it's not affordable health care insurance, it's not going to work. Reform is not going to work. So, but can we even if it's in the final bill, the Stupak amendment, can we come back and fight another day on it? Yes, absolutely. So that's why I say don't kill the whole bill over that.
Yeah, in the jargon of the Congress, they refer to the bill as the underlying bill. So whenever somebody gets into the well of the Congress, they talk about the underlying bill, and then they'll talk about the different things that they vote on, the amendments and whatnot. The underlying bill is health care reform. And these other amendments and these other changes to health care reform, while important, to vote them down at the expense of healthcare reform in America doesn't seem worthwhile because it's going to be addressed in different forums. And to what you were saying about Claire McCaskill, Democratic senator from Missouri and Missouri. There are two Republican senators, Olympia Snowe and Susan Collins from Maine, who said that they don't know, as Republicans, whether they can support a bill that has this as part of it either. So this is the beginning of the evolution of what the abortion section of the health care reform legislation will look like. It is not by any means absolute, nor is the legislation that was passed out of the House, by the way, the underlying bill. But so I think that Cenk is on point with this.
All right, let me say two last things on this because this is an important issue. One, this is what we talk about when we say don't be doctrinaire. The Republicans, if you disagree with them on anything, they say, all right, go get them. They go for blood, take Skazafova out, take Charlie Crist out in Florida. If you waver from the ideology at all, you're not a Republican, and damn you to hell. That's a bit dramatic. Okay, I'm not sure they say that, although they might.
Probably do. Yeah,
they're Republicans.
It's not too dramatic,
right? And they lose elections because of that, right? Whereas I understand that if Bob Casey Jr. is Democrat and he's pro-life, well, okay, then in the primaries I'm going to vote for a guy who's a Democrat and pro-choice, right? But he won, and that's why I didn't like when Schumer ran him because I thought we could have won with a pro-choice candidate. We beat Santorum by 17 points. So you fight on those issues. You don't relent at all. But if you kick everybody out of your party who doesn't agree with you on everything, you become Republicans. And you can't have that. Now, so what can you do about it? This is, I think, another critical point. Well, Chris Bowers at Open Left, that's one of the top progressive websites, had a great article about it. So don't give to the DCCC. Those are the guys who provide money for Democrats to run in the House.
The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee.
Exactly. Okay, now, why? Not because you're against all Democrats. No, focus your giving, okay, your contributions, okay? So take the same money you would have given to DCCC, who then gives it to pro-life candidates and the guys who voted the wrong way on the Stupak amendment, and instead, for example, go to Act Blue, where they tell you exactly where everybody is on each position, and pick the candidates you like, or pick a group of candidates, sometimes they do this, that you like, that are more progressive, right? And vote with your dollars, because politicians pay attention to dollars. So there are 23 guys who are in, he makes a very good case, is the guys you definitely should not give money to, Democrats, if you believe what we believe, right? They are the guys who voted in favor of the Stupak Amendment and said, yes, let's make sure that, we have this, that does not allow you to get an abortion with public money, et cetera, right? But then they turned around and voted against the bill anyway. Okay, now, how are they progressive? How are they Democrats? I don't know. See, that seems to be too much, right? That goes to the core of what we're talking about.
They voted for the Stupak Amendment.
Yes.
And against health care.
Yeah, and then Stupak Amendment passed. So they're like, okay, great. All right, we got that pro-life. These are Democrats. We got that pro-life thing in there. That's fantastic. Now I'm going to vote against the bill anyway. Well, why the hell did we compromise with you?
Well, because
we got enough of them.
There are a variety, but there are a variety of reasons, political reasons as well, to do that. I mean, as soon as you know you have a majority, and this is all the political play. As soon as you know you have a majority, the speaker or the person who's leading that legislation is going to release some people to vote against it for the politics of it. So there are reasons.
I get you, but the flip side of that politics. That's exactly right. That's definitely what happens. The flip side of that politics is, well, then you're not getting our money anymore, because we don't like the way you voted, and if there's a primary opponent, you're not getting our vote. So, I mean, that's fair. That's politics,
but that's club for growth politics, though. I mean, in a way, that's club for growth politics.
No. Here's the thing, Michael. It's always a balancing act. You can't throw people overboard because they don't agree with you on one thing. But on the other hand, if you don't agree with most of the core issues, well, I got to draw the line somewhere, and I'd rather have a progressive Democrat and give it a real shot to see if they could win in that district, and a lot of them can, and we've shown that. So,
where have we shown that, though? I mean, that's another argument.
That's a whole different show.
In district politics, it's pretty rare. But
And then let me give you the flip side too, though, because it's all balancing. Let's be smart, carrots and sticks, right? So that's the stick side. The carrot side is there were 17 congressmen, representatives, I should say, who were in Republican districts. Where John McCain, quote unquote Republican districts, because John McCain got a bigger percentage of the vote than Barack Obama did in 2008, that voted against the Stupak Amendment and voted for health care bill anyway. Okay, so they were right on both sides, even though they live in quote unquote red districts. Well, then you got to, for their courage, you got to reward them. Get that list and give those. You know what? We'll get both lists for you. We'll put them on the website, and then as I was saying, have at it, Hoss.
Or you can go to Open Left as well.
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry. Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry.
Yes, the gentleman from New Jersey is recognized.
I propose an amendment to the next transportation bill, which is that if you're going to a hospital or clinic to get an abortion, you cannot drive on any road that has received federal funds for construction or maintenance. Furthermore, for the TARP legislation, no bank shall get any federal funds if they loan to any woman who ever had an abortion.
Without objection, so ordered.
I like that second part. Yes, here. Look, as Dave was pointing out, this can get absurd on the federal funding issue.
Yeah, of course it. But it can. But I mean, it can
has.
get very absurd.
Right.
I don't think that this rises to the absurdity. Although I think what Dave just did was funny. I don't think that it rises to the absurdity because it is an important matter to not only the members who vote on it, but also to the people they represent. Abortion is not absurd to a lot of people.
But will this ever not be the number one political issue in America that clouds every other bill and every other piece of legislation that we consider?
I don't think that it is. I mean, I think that for a while it wasn't even an issue at all because there was no way that anything was going to be lost on it. But I think now when it comes to federal health, when it injects itself into the dialogue over a serious bill and serious overhaul of the way things are done in America, then I think that there is, I disagree with it, but I think there's room for it.
It injects itself into every close election for every seat in the Senate or Congress. Therefore, it gets into...
It injects itself into, when it wants to be injected into judicial nominations. It injects itself into some elections in district politics, but I don't think that it is the overriding issue anywhere. It never polls that way.
Look, the bottom line for me is, I get why it does, by the way, Dave. It's because people are very emotional on both sides, understandably so. One thinks it's about their liberty and privacy, et cetera, control of their own bodies. The other side thinks that lives are on the line, okay? They genuinely believe that. So I get why they just both sides keep going, banging heads on this. But what I don't understand is why the country is 2/3 pro-choice, and the House, which is supposed to represent us better than the Senate even, is majority pro-life.
Well, but it's the politics of it. There are these Democratic congressmen who members of the House of Representatives went to the Speaker and said, "We will not vote for this unless you let us vote for the Stupak." So she had to go to the pro-choice caucus within the House and say the pro-choice caucus, and they got infuriated. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Rosa DeLauro, Diana DeGette, pretty prominent Congress people, who said they were going to hold their noses and vote for the health care legislation in spite of the fact that the Stupak Amendment was included. So it's the politics of it, as you said, Cenk, and as is obvious now. And so it's not about whether or not these people believe this or don't believe it in certain cases. You're not going to get health care legislation unless you compromise. You said it at the beginning of this argument. It's about compromise, which is politics.
All right. Later in the program, we're going to go to the Fort Hood shooter. Should we start, as some conservatives have suggested, banning all Muslims from the military? That'll be fun for everybody. All right, Young Turks, come right back. All right, back on the Young Turks. Cenk and Michael with you. Now we're going to talk to Eric Bullard from Media Matters. He had an interesting article with some facts. Yes, facts. The conservatives and these days the mainstream press don't seem to like those things. But before this issue passed, I wanted to bring this up so that people are not confused as to what actually happened here, because conventional wisdom is set in here, or is close to setting in, and we want to make sure we correct the record. It's about the battle between Obama White House and Fox News and what that has done to Fox News' ratings. Eric, welcome back to the Young Turks.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so what is the conventional wisdom, Eric?
Oh my gosh, conventional wisdom is thanks to the White House and its foolish decision to fact-check Fox News. Fox News' ratings have soared spiked, gone through the roof, sort of insert your cliche here. But no, I mean, I think I listed 15 items, or I cited 15 examples in my column at the bottom. That talking point was everywhere. Fox News' ratings after the controversy had gone through the roof, and it was not just Fox News saying that. It wasn't just sort of the conservative press saying that. It was the Beltway media elites who were driving that notion.
Now, Eric, they had some numbers to back them up, so they claimed. And when I saw those numbers, I thought, well, that looks kind of impressive. I'm dubious.
Right.
The minute Obama was elected, I thought, oh, that's it. Fox's ratings are going to go through the roof. I said that, and they have, because they're on the attack now, right?
Sure.
But I was dubious that they went up further when, because of this little fight here, they were already doing pretty well as it was. But they seem to have some facts. So what was the facts that they had, and what was wrong with those?
Yeah, the Los Angeles Times was one of the first to print the numbers, and they confirmed the numbers came from Fox News. So, I mean, this is typical in the cable business. You have, research and communication department that are constant contact with reporters and sort of feeding them the Nielsen numbers and their spin and how it looks great for you. So they do this all the time, and the latest batch was, if you look at the 2 weeks before Anita Dunn sort of started the White House push on October 11th, and if you look at the 2 weeks after that, you would see a 9% gain in Fox's overall ratings, and you would see, I think it was a 14% gain in the demo 2554. And so, right, you look at that and you say 9%. That's it's certainly modest. I mean, the weekly cable news ratings often go up or down 9 or 10 points each week, just based on cyclical stuff.
And Eric, if I can interrupt, what are the raw numbers to those to 9%? What basically does 9%?
About 1.3 million people a week. Yeah, 1.2, 1.3, and within those demos, we're talking about 325,000, 2554 viewers. But still, you say 9. You look at 9%. You say, okay, we don't know. It's all cause and effect, but a 10% bump's a 10% bump. But then if you look at the very small print, what they did, it was a 14-day comparison pre-controversy compared to a 12-day post-controversy. And what they did is they left off the last Saturday and Sunday, and of course Saturday and Sunday are traditionally the lowest-rated cable news days. So it was this sort of trick. They were comparing a 14-day period to a 12-day period, and by the way, they left off the lowest 2 days. Well, when you made it a 14-day comparison to a 14-day comparison, that 9% gain became a 2% gain, which is just completely irrelevant in the world of cable news. That you'll see that kind of bump on any given day or week. So suddenly the spike turns into a complete flat line in the 2 weeks after the controversy, and there's no there.
Eric, we're talking to Eric Bowler from Media Matters. That's disappointing in two ways. One, you cited about 3 or 4 articles that gave the numbers.
Yeah.
The fact that none of them could tell the difference between a 12-day and a 14-day period. Yeah. I mean, look, maybe it's because I'm partly kind of in the business, but I think, okay, but what are you comparing? If you leave out the weekend, it's the most obvious fraud of all time, right?
Right.
That's disappointing. And then the second thing is, they seem so eager to go along with this, the Obama White House screwed up by going after our buddies at Fox.
Well, and also the irony of the fact that they are not fact-checking people who are being criticized for not fact-checking.
Yeah. Well, but your 2 points are completely intertwined, because the press went with this. The press was pushing this story literally in 12 hours after the story began. So the talking point immediately was, this is going to generate a huge spike. The media elites just knew in their gut that the White House had made this huge tactical blunder, and it was going to create this, I don't know what they thought, that Fox News was going to get 8 million viewers all of a sudden, or I don't know what they thought. But they claimed from the get-go it was going to produce this rating spike. And then about a week or so later, or 2 weeks later, they saw seeing some numbers that seemed to confirm it, so they went all in again. But that was a story they wanted to tell, because
you see, Eric, let me just jump in there for a second, because it's interesting that they wanted to tell that story. And we had a former Republican congressman on here, LeBoutelier, and he made a really great point about this, funny enough. He said, look, why do you think the rest of the media is defending Fox? And he's very deeply conservative, right? But he's an open-minded guy. He's an interesting guy to talk to. He said, why do you think they're defending Fox? Because those guys think, hey, maybe one day I'll get that big paycheck from Rupert Murdoch. I mean, could that be part of what drives them to band together and say, oh, no, don't attack those guys, because I could dare but for the grace of God go, I could have taken a job with Fox. I might take a job with Fox later.
I don't know if it's specifically what they want that Murdoch paycheck, but I think there is this sort of grace of God of, wait a minute, we do not want White House's fact-checking our stuff.
Well, that's a different thing, right?
We do fine when we're in control of the guidelines. We like it when everyone's on the same page. We like it when everyone sort of regurgitates the same thing. We do not, Democrats are simply not allowed to call out the press by name. We saw that during the Clinton years when they occasionally pushed back on the really crazy Whitewater stuff, and they name names. The Beltway press came down on them like a ton of bricks. It is absolutely off limits for Democrats to criticize the press by name. Of course, Republicans, press bashing has been a cornerstone of that movement for 4 decades. That's expected, and everyone sort of nods their head. But when Democrats do it, it's like, it's Katie bar the door. I mean, it is just not allowed. So I think this was a way for the press saying, no way. We are not going to have a new Democratic administration that's going to fact-check the press. That is just out of bounds. And the other thing that was just amazing to me was just sort of the crushing uniformity. I mean, everyone wrote the exact same column talking about why it was such a bad idea for Fox News, for the White House to fact-check Fox News, and every one of those columns included at least a couple sentences about how it was going to spike Fox News' ratings, or it had already spiked Fox News' ratings, even though it was completely false.
The power of groupthink is unreal.
Oh, my God.
I mean, you see it at so many places.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Eric Boulder from Media Matters. You can find the article, of course, on Media Matters' website as well. Eric, thanks so much for joining us.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yep. We'll be right back. Young Turks. Back at Rebel headquarters here. Cenk Uygur and Michael Schur with you today. I just wanted to give a quick shout-out to Ronald Reagan. I wanted to thank him for bringing down that Berlin Wall 20 years ago. Much love, Ronnie. Well, Michael,
20 years ago, who was president?
Technically, Ronald Reagan wasn't president.
Right.
Technically, Poppy was.
Right.
Okay, but obviously, he said, Mr. Gorbachev, bring down...
Tear down this wall.
Tear down this wall. That's it. It's over.
Right. The Pope
First
had
of all-
nothing to do with it, and of course, Mr. Gorbachev had nothing to do with it.
And by the way, the fact that communism doesn't work had nothing to do with it.
You're right.
Okay, none of that was
It was
relevant.
all Ronald Reagan. Thank you, Ron.
So yes, all kidding aside, of course, it was a great day 20 years ago when it happened. And back then, I said the same exact thing I say these days on other issues. See, I told you so. Because I had been arguing against communism for all of my life at that point, and I thought, see, it's not going to work. What did I tell you?
Right. Well, it's you were right, and thank you. 20 years later.
That's right.
Thank you, Cenk.
Yeah, it must have been me. It must have been me as a 19-year-old. Okay, so now quick correction on a story that we covered actually several weeks ago, maybe over a month ago. There was a survey by Strategic Vision LLC on Oklahoma students, and they said that they gave them the immigration test, like what the test that immigrants take when they come into the country, and that only 3% of them had passed. It was an unbelievable number. Only 23% of high school students in Oklahoma knew that the first president was George Washington. It seemed unbelievable.
Right.
And it turns out it was unbelievable. It was not true.
Oh.
Now a story comes out from Nate Silver at 538.com, one of the most respected pollsters around these days. And he has found someone named Ed Kennedy who couldn't believe it himself. He's from Oklahoma. He's works in education and is a legislator in Oklahoma, representative from Oklahoma's 15th House District. And he said, you know what, this just doesn't ring true to me. So what he did was he put together his own survey.
He must be a state representative?
Yeah, state
representative.
representative. Yeah, from Oklahoma's 15th District.
Right.
Okay, so he put together his own survey, and then the results were much, much better. Percentage of students that knew who George Washington was, 98%.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's a lot more believable now.
Here's what's shocking. That 2% of the people don't know.
Yeah, that's amazing too. And they weren't great on every answer. Here's, how many justices are on the Supreme Court? Only 54% got it right. I'm not surprised by that.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's the answer is not. But I remember when we covered that story, I said that's kind of a hard one, right? Now, so here's the interesting part. Nate Silver broke down the numbers, and it looks like Kennedy's right, of course, and that Strategic Vision seems to have made this up out of whole cloth. It doesn't look like they even did the study, okay? And because when asked, look, I'm going to write this big blog on it, people pay attention to this, right? Probably the most quoted blog on, maybe the most quoted thing on polls is 538.com these days. And they said, well, yeah, we did a study. Don't worry about it. We have the papers here in our office, which means we didn't do it at all. Okay?
Right.
So what's amazing about it is that Strategic Vision, it turns out, is a conservative polling organization. And they've been making this stuff up for a while. And, it's like whenever you want to give them a little bit of a break, the conservative side, the right-wing side in the country this day and age, they come up with something else.
Yeah.
Now, I know that they don't represent all Republicans. But you look, when you have a poll, like let's say Rasmussen, which is conservative-leaning, but they do good polls. You look at the poll and you say, all right, let me take a look at. But sometimes it turns out they just make the stuff up.
Well, and what's amazing about that, too, is you would think that it would be a poll about which they would be embarrassed. That immigrants know more than Oklahomans do, is basically what the previous fictitious results said, when in fact that would go against what they would preach, you would imagine.
Right. I guess what they wanted to push was, you see, public education doesn't work. And that's why they did this fake poll of, you see that, they don't know anything. Right? Except their numbers were so comical that some people said, well, let's double check this.
And that's an epidemic problem with the internet that will never, I don't think, be solved. But there's nobody to go after them right now. There's no sort of price that they have to pay in the public world for that. I mean, other than, they'll do it again sometime.
Right.
And that's really too bad.
And now we know, though, Strategic Vision, totally full of crap. Don't ever listen to another poll of theirs.
Yeah.
Right?
We kind of knew that before a little bit.
Well, I guess I didn't know it because I reported like it was true, and I didn't know. I had no idea that.
Good point.
I thought it was a legitimate polling organization. I was blown away by it. So my bad on that for believing, and I had no idea if they were conservative or liberal, but I should have known better than to believe those outrageous numbers. Yeah. Okay, so now we move forward. Now let's go to Fort Hood. We have, of course, the man who did these killings was Major Nidal Malik Hassan, and he has a history of apparently saying some outrageous things that should have drawn red flags. Sympathy for suicide bombers. He apparently posted that online and talked to others about it.
A recent and evolving history of doing that.
Yes.
It's not a lifetime of doing that.
Well, it's a little of both. Now, you're right. He's certainly gotten, it seems, much more radical as time passed by. And then he'd been speaking up about this more as time passed by as well. And he'd been saying recently that it was the duty of all Muslims to fight against American aggressors. Now, when you see a quote like that, that's red flag, red flag, red flag. You got to investigate that guy, because I don't mean you strip him of all of his, his rank, or you put him in the brig.
You talk to him.
But you talk to him. You do hopefully a quiet investigation behind the scenes as well, and look into whether that guy's trouble. I mean, here's a guy saying, "I think suicide bombers make sense." I mean, if that's not a red flag, I don't know what is, right? And it doesn't matter if he's Muslim, Christian, Buddhist. It doesn't, that's a red flag no matter how you slice it, right? But given the history of Muslim suicide bombers, and he's Muslim, I would say, yes, that's relevant. So you take that into consideration.
You do.
Right?
That's profiling, though.
Yeah.
So,
well,
that is profiling.
No. Yes, but and that's exactly what I want to talk about, Michael. What's rational profiling and what's irrational profiling? To say, oh, well, he's Muslim, so let's profile him, is crazy talk. There are tens of thousands of Muslims in the United States military. There's millions of Muslims in the country. What are you going to do? Just assume they're all guilty? I mean, that's literally un-American. It's not right, and it's counterproductive. It hurts your cause. It alienates more people. It might even drive more people to do crazy things.
Yeah.
Okay, so that doesn't help. And someone said, well, oh yeah, but he was against the two wars. But that's also a majority of Americans. For 4 or 5 million Muslims, forget that. That's a majority of Americans. You can't profile based on that either. It's not rational. It's not, and we have freedom of speech in this country. But can you profile on specific actions and postings online and things that he said to his colleagues, and if they appear to be dangerous and supporting violence? Of course.
Well, where do you draw that line? I don't know that I disagree with you, but where do you draw that line? I mean, that's if 100% of arrests of people driving drugs through Florida are Hispanic. Let's just say that 100%. Are you going to pull every Hispanic over? Your argument says no, right?
That's
are you
right.
going to
Of
pull
course,
anybody else?
absolutely.
Are you going to pull over anybody else?
In this hypothetical,
Yeah.
if the only people who are driving have the drugs are Hispanic Americans or Hispanics, right? Well, can I use that not to pull over people for drug purposes? In this absurd and non-existent hypothetical,
I know
yes.
it's an absurd and non-existent, but I'm trying
Right.
to I'm trying to go to what that would be, because following your logic, there are going to be so many ways to apply that.
Okay, so let's apply that logic. Okay, so if you have a guy who is used to be a member of the militia, right? Might be a neo-Nazi, who knows, right? And who's made statements about, hey, you know what? Sometimes you got to rise up against the government. Red flag. That goes in the file. That's interesting. If you're in the military and you got a gun and you're talking about taking up arms against the government, well then I got to quote unquote profile you. That's rational. That's based on something you've done or something you've said, right?
Yeah.
But am I going to profile all Christians because that guy was Christian? Of course not. Am I going to profile all whites because that guy was white? Of course not. Am I even going to profile all right-wingers in the military? Of course not. Right?
Yeah.
So you need a rational basis on a case-by-case basis. And I think we had plenty on Hassan to say, hey, he should have been profiled here. And now ABC News is saying that some officials, CIA officials, knew about his history and that did not properly communicate that to the CIA. Now, we'll see some Hoekstra, who's a Republican in the Congress, is saying, I demand investigation.
Well, and so is Lieberman, who's a Republican in the Senate, is demanding an investigation and a hearing into what was overlooked and how we make this. And of course, this is doubly confusing because he was Nadal is a psychiatrist. So what do you do when you profile? You profile them and then you send them for psychiatric counseling. So it's a doubly difficult situation. One thing that's being overlooked, because I'm saying it's being overlooked because I overlooked it, is that he woke up today and he's talking. And it's very rare in cases like this, in public cases like this, that we have the shooter. Usually they kill themselves or are killed by marksmen. And so in this case, we have the shooter, and hopefully we're going to learn a lot more about that and what went on with him.
All right, so let me give you a couple of quick more details, and then we'll get to what some conservative groups are saying, which of course are
That's always fun.
always fun and always comical. Now, to go back to the earlier point of how long has he been, saying these kind of crazy things? Well, apparently he'd been going to a mosque with Anwar al-Awlaki, who was the spiritual leader of this mosque in Virginia, which two other 9/11 conspirators, or two 9/11 conspirators, had also gone to. A third 9/11 conspirator had gone to a mosque of Awlaki's in Southern California, in San Diego. And now Awlaki says, hey, you know what? He has now left the United States, is in Yemen, and is saying, oh, it's a great job that Hassan did. Of course, he should kill all the American pigs. By the way, he used to live here, like I said.
He's an American.
Yeah.
He's an American, and he's missing. Yemen doesn't know where he is. He's
Right.
on the loose.
Now, first of all, on Awlaki, I say he's directly inciting violence. We should extradite him from Yemen. We should arrest him, extradite him, and bring him to trial.
We're trying to do it.
Yes.
But they don't know where he is.
Okay, so that's another step that we should take. And so the fact that he'd been going to that mosque is an interesting point. But in and of itself, a lot of people were going to that mosque. I wouldn't say that that's necessarily a clue. But apparently, when asked, he was talking about earlier, before the incident, before he shot everybody, he had said that he was a big fan of Awlaki and believed in what he was saying. Now, if you know that this guy says that good Muslims should kill Americans, obviously he's a radical extremist imam, and this soldier is saying, hey, I'm on his side. Again, another huge red flag, right? So now the CIA, of course, claims we didn't know and that this is not true, that we had information, all this information before the shooting, and we didn't pass it on to the military. Now, let's get to the conservatives. The American Family Association, and I don't know what they have to do with any of this, right? But they're a right-wing group, theoretically well-respected in the right-wing community. What that means is a different question. But their leader is Brian Fisher. He's, in fact, the director of issues analysis. And he has analyzed the issue of the Fort Hood shooter. And he's got a very simple idea. He says that U.S. command needs to, quote, stop the practice of allowing Muslims to serve in the U.S. military. Well, yeah, that sounds very American. Right?
It's very American. I mean, there were movements that tried to stop blacks from entering the military.
Well, they couldn't be trusted.
They couldn't be trusted.
Right? So now, but it gets worse. Here are some quotes from Brian Fisher. The reason is simple, he says. The more devout a Muslim is, the more of a threat he is to the national security. Devout Muslims who accept the teachings of the Prophet as divinely inspired believe it is their duty to kill infidels. Yesterday's massacre is living proof. And yesterday's incident is not the first fragging incident involving a Muslim taking out his fellow U.S. soldiers. Now, there are over 1 billion pious Muslims in the world who do not do any of this, but apparently they are outweighed by the 2 guys in the U.S. military who have. Okay, he says there are multiple incidents. Yes, there are 2 incidents.
What's the other incident?
There was a guy in Iraq who shot up
that's right.
fellow
Yeah,
soldiers.
over there, that's right.
And so now the fact that those 2 are 0.000 whatever percent of all the Muslims in just the U.S. military, let alone the United States, apparently Brian Fisher of American Family Association does not find that persuasive. Okay, instead he's going to make broad generalizations here. So he continues. Of course, most U.S. Muslims don't shoot up their fellow soldiers. Why, thank you. Are you not merciful? And then he says, fine, as soon as Muslims give us a foolproof way to identify their jihadis from their moderates, we'll go back to allowing them to serve. You tell us who the ones are that we have to worry about, prove you're right, and Muslims can once again serve. Until that day comes, we simply cannot afford the risk. You invent a jihadi detector that works every time it's used, and we'll welcome you back with open arms. This is not Islamophobia, it's Islamo-realism.
It's like when former soldier Timothy McVeigh blew up the federal building, and there was that, I don't know how long, it was a few years that they banned white people from joining the military. Remember that?
Yeah, they had the whiteometer.
The whiteometer.
The whiteometer,
yeah,
I'm sorry.
The whiteometer.
Yes.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. The night of the killing, I saw signs outside, and I didn't see a face, but it was a child holding a sign that said, "Our enemy is not terror, our enemy is Islam." And that's what people are starting to think in this country, and it's
okay. So let me add 2 quick things here. One is, look, you say Tim McVeigh. We can go down the list. How about the right-wing fundamentalist and Christian zealot that shot Dr. Tiller, the abortion provider, right? I mean, he's a right-wing. I mean, the whole point is he's a Christian fundamentalist, right?
Right, he's a Christian fundamentalist, but what I picked McVeigh because he was going after federal employees because he thought the American government was the enemy of America.
Right.
So it's a little more analogous to what was done at Fort Hood.
And obviously, you're not going to do a Christianometer to determine if you're going to shoot abortion providers. You're not going to do a whiteometer on Tim McVeigh. Whiteometer, sorry. And the list goes on and on. How about the guy who went to the Holocaust Museum and shot people up?
Right.
And do I have to list you the thousands of white Christian killers in the country? So I don't have anything against white Christians. I'm just telling you what the numbers are. And it would be absurd to claim that you should do some sort of litmus test for them. And it's absurd to claim based on 2 killings that you should do one for Muslims. But my second point is this. It's un-American. Muslim Americans are just as American as Brian Fisher. And apparently they understand the concept of the country a little better than Brian Fisher. See, Brian Fisher thinks, I'm a white American, or a Christian American, hence I'm a real American, and I get to do tests on you, whether you pass my jihadometer, right? And then accordingly, I'm not going to allow you to serve in the military. But that's not how the country works. We're all allowed to serve in the military because we're all Americans.
Brian Fisher is un-American.
That's exactly what he is. All right, Young Turks.